Hi, how are you doing today? I'm here with a very exciting video because I will be talking about my favorite books that I read in 2022. Yay! I always love filming these videos. I made a top 10 list this year, which was extremely difficult to narrow down to 10 books. But the fact that I have a rule of only one book per series did help me out a little bit, but still a very difficult list to make. So these are in no particular order. Actually, they're in the order that I read them in, but I don't have like, this is my favorite, then my second favorite, is my third, because that would be way too difficult to like actually rank them. But yeah, let's just get into things with my first favorite book of 2022 being Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I need you to go back to like January or February when I read this book, because that was an experience. I, over the years, have heard very mixed things about this book. From people who absolutely love it, which is why I bought it, and from people who absolutely hate it, which is why I haven't read it until now, because it's one of the oldest books on my TBR at the point that I read it in. And I was so hesitant, and then one day I went to the bookstore, I bought a book, and the girl at the cash register was like, "Oh my god, have you read Caraval by Stephanie Garber?" I was like, "No." And she's like, "Read that, because based on like what you're writing right now, I think you're gonna absolutely love that book." And I was like, okay. And I read it, and she was right. That was my experience reading Caraval was such a fun experience, because like I immediately loved the main character. I loved the sibling relationship, and as the story kept continuing, I was shocked with every twist and turn, and I was like, you should have seen me reading this book, because I was like, oh my god, what's happening? I was having such a blast putting the book down every so often, because I was like, I need to process what's going on. I was rooting for this woman so hard. I loved it so much. I loved every second of this so much. I thought the world of Caraval was so magical, so wonderful, so mysterious. And like I said, I love the characters, love the sibling relationship. I love the romance in it as well. So I was just so in love, and it's an experience I've had, like I haven't had with a book in a really long time. Then the second book on this list also shouldn't be a surprise to any of you. That's Actor Age Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert, because I read this entire trilogy in like a month's time, I think. Like I read it pretty quickly, considering how slowly I typically read series. Like I read Get Out of Chloe Brown, immediately went ahead and bought the other two books in the series, immediately read those, and Eve Brown ended up being my favorite of the series. But I do have to like give a shout out to the other two books as well, because I really love those as well. I just, superb romance. I think Talia Hibbert is a really great rom-com writer, because she writes romances that you're very invested in, that are very hot and steamy, are very cute, but at the same time she makes you laugh. She makes you laugh so much, and I really love her humor. The characters have amazing banter, and the two main characters in this book were absolutely fantastic. I really loved how they kind of like filled each other out. They did have kind of like a hate to love dynamic, but I feel like overall they just were amazing together. And then the Twitter conflict, a little bit unnecessary, but I liked how eventually it was done, and how they got back together and it was resolved. I thought that was really well done. And then next on the list is She Gets the Girl by Rachel Lippincott and Alison Derrick. This was also a fun line reading this, because the time that I read this book I was on a reading slump, and kind of to get out of the reading slump I read 3 separate rom-coms, and I ended up loving all 3 of them, but this is the only one that I loved enough to make on this list, which again, very difficult decisions, I need to tell you. I thought it was so much fun. We follow 2 characters who are like into other people, but in like trying to get with those people, they end up falling for each other, and it was so much fun. I loved it so much. And I loved just how they each had like their personal things going on, but and they worked those things out on their own, but they did constantly talk to each other about these things and like help each other in like ways, and I thought that was really well done. I do think that's something you see very often. I really liked both the protagonists and what they were going through. I really loved how the romance ended up developing. It was so well done, and it was like a little bit slow, because like I said in the beginning, they were trying to get with other people, so no, it takes a while for them to realize, oh shit, I think I've fallen in love with this person. And I really love how that was done. And then just, there's so many great scenes between them, and I just, the next on the list is Because of My Budget and by Julia Quinn, which I have to say, this does a lot of things that I typically don't like. Like for example, this book is all romance, almost no plot, which it's typically a thing I don't like. I like having a plot running through my romance. It doesn't have to be like at the forefront, but you know, I need something to be invested in besides romance as well. They did not have that. However, I was obsessed. I was obsessed with this book. I couldn't put it down. I really loved the dynamic between the two main characters. I love how it kind of is a mix of the best of a friends to lovers as well as a hate to love. Because technically this is a hate to love, but they grew up together and she is best friends with his siblings, like basically. So like they know each other really well. And so therefore it has that mix of like a friends to lovers feel but also a hate to love feel, and I thought that was done brilliantly. I love the two main characters. I thought they worked together perfectly. And again, those moments of them realizing like, oh shit, I fall in love with this person when that happened. Amazing. I love it so much. Then next I read Solitaire by Alice Oseman that I also loved. And again, this isn't a popular one because I feel like when I first heard about this book, everyone loved it, but now that Alice Oseman has gained more popularity because this was their debut novel, now that she has gained more popularity since like Heartstopper and stuff like that, I've seen a lot of people read this, I go back to it and think it's not as good, and I have to disagree with that because I love this. Yes, the main character is insufferable, but I feel like you're so in her head that it makes sense, and all of her actions, even though like you don't agree with them, you get where she's coming from, and I really liked that was on. I really liked the like social commentary in his book and how you could relate to her main character a lot. I remember I annotated this book and I highlighted so many quotes that resonated with me because they resonated with me, and I haven't done, usually the quotes are like tabs are the least used, and I think I use it so much in this book because it just ugh. And then there's also like a friendship that turns into a romance at the very end, but like it mainly focuses on a friendship, and that is just phenomenal. The next, on a lighter note, we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which I read two Emily Henry's this year, this one and People Who Made a Vacation. Both were contenders for the list, but eventually I only put Book Lovers on here because I did love it more than People Who Made a Vacation. I thought this was great. I had such a blast reading this book. I really, really loved the dynamic between the two main characters. It was so well done, and how the relationship developed was so well done. And that conflict was heartbreaking. Like, oh my god, it was the most natural progression for the relationship and the way they were going, but it was still absolutely heartbreaking to read. And then when it got resolved, it's so beautiful, and I sobbed my eyeballs out from like happiness. It was so good. And then at the forefront of this book also is the relationship between our female main character and her sister, and I thought that was really well done as well. I really loved the setting of like the small town as well. I thought it was all very well done, and I just love this book so much. And then next I have I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, which I don't feel like I need to talk about much because I feel like everyone read this book this year and everyone loved it. It's such a great memoir. Typically, but memoirs always have a difficult time like reading and reviewing because you are talking about someone's personal experience. But I feel like when it comes to this book, I have no difficulties with it because Jeanette's storytelling and writing is just so out of this world amazing that I feel like I can praise that endlessly without even going into what's actually being told in this book. Now, the next book on the list is Never Ever Getting Back Together by Sophie Gonzalez, which also shouldn't be a surprise because Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez was on this list last year or the year before, I don't remember. When I thought I think it was last year. And it's one of my favorite books of all time, and this one definitely fit the bill again. It is such a cute YA sapphic rom-com. It's so well done. I have recently learned about myself that I absolutely love a reality TV show setting. This one has that, does it amazingly. I have two amazing main characters who I really loved following, and their romance was everything. I really loved how it all developed throughout the book. I really also love the cast of characters of like the other contestants on the show. I feel like often a lot of romance books that have a reality show setting like really focus on our two main characters and like kind of like have these side contestants a little bit to the wayside, which you know I don't always hate, but really like how we got to know those girls really well and how it really was like a group of people, and I really like how it was done, and I'm starting to think Sophie Gonzalez can do no wrong. And next on the list is Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey, which doesn't come out until February 7th. I'm sorry, but I still feel like I need to include this on this list because I genuinely loved it so much. Basically, our female main character used to have a crush on our male main character while they were in high school, but like nothing ever happened between them. They barely knew each other, just like an admiration from afar. And over the years, she's kind of like kept his admiration, but like obviously like moved on, but like that admiration was still kind of there, and she like looked him up online very often and stuff like that. And then he comes back to their hometown, and she is a gardener, and she gets hired to like work on his garden, I guess. And they went into each other, and it's tough and so it's an amazing romance. I was hot and bothered throughout this entire book, and not because of the sexy scenes, because there were some, they were good, but the sexual tension between these two main characters was everything. I, oh, it was so well done, and I really loved how their relationship developed throughout this book. I really loved the characters just on their own and their own struggles, and I thought that was really well done. And again, just like when she gets to go, I feel like they both confide in each other with their issues very well, and like help each other, even if they like ended up like solving their issues on their own. And I thought was really well done. And like I said, the romance was just everything in this, and I binge read this. I started it and I didn't put it down now I finished it because I was just so enthralled by reading it. Then last on the list we have King of Rat by Anna Wan, which again an unexpected show up for the list, because even though I expected to enjoy this as everyone was enjoying it on my feed, I didn't know if it was my thing. And then I also like binge read this. I was obsessed with it. I really loved two main characters and their personal progressions, but the romance is really where it shines. It's a hate to love arranged marriage situation, and I thought it was so well done, and I really loved the tension between the two of them. I loved how they like got to know each other and like fell for each other, and sexual tension between them again was on point. And this one is one where the threaded conflict I saw coming from like miles and miles and miles away, which typically I don't like in books, but I feel like the fact that it was kind of like this ticking clock almost the entire time of the book, like when it was gonna happen, when the bomb was gonna drop, just made it all the more heartbreaking once it finally happened. And I do think Anna Wan did a great job at making the guy grovel for forgiveness because he messed up. And it really took a lot of effort for them to get back together, and I thought that was really well done as well. And yeah, that was everything that I have for you today. My 10 favorite books of 2022. Let me know in the comments below what your favorites were of this year, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Here I am again, the same old situation.